right, so here we're back with StaceyAnn Palma. Stacey, how you doing?
I'm great.
Fantastic. We were just talking about Talk for Writing and the fun that we're having, putting that all together. In the end, just so you guys know, the wolf got caught. He got caught, and he...
Epic. It's an epic catching. It's an epic scene.
He ran down the hallway. He got, jumped. He did get jumped by these security guards. But I think that the best thing about this whole moment was the kids were like, "Yay, he got caught!" And then like a few hours later, they're like, "Wait, where is he?" We're like, "He's in jail."
They were not happy with that.
They were not happy with that.
They are definitely the new age. They are about social justice.
Absolutely.
They are like prison abolition. They don't want to see that anymore.
No.
Our kids, which was so wonderful for us to see. You're like, that's right.
This is wonderful. Empathy, I love it.
Yeah.
But he tore up your things.
They were like,
you're
that's
not
okay. There's like the punishment doesn't fit the crime.
Yeah, it was very much that. Like, why is he in jail though?
Yeah.
He could have just said sorry. It really was that for them. So now they're planning his escape. I don't even know. Like, you have a whole voting chart over there. Like, is he guilty? Is he innocent? I see more innocent than guilty.
Yeah, they think he's innocent. They're just not about this whole jail thing for a wolf. They're like, this is just too extreme.
Unfortunately, he's still in jail.
And I think they like some of his, what is a world with no trouble and no mischievous. They love a bit of mischievousness in their day. I think that's why they wanted to come to school. They're like, what new mischievous thing is going to happen? Yeah. So now school is boring again.
Something's gonna happen.
Yeah.
I think the best part about me when he did tear up their cubbies, took out all the cubby things and their bags and shoes were all over the place. I think the best thing for me where I couldn't hold it in was that my kids started taking their book bags and putting their shoes in it and hiding it and then walking around with it. I'm like, no, put it back in your cubby. No. The wolf is loose. And I was like, oh my goodness. And I had emails from parents is things okay over there? I'm like, it's fine. Everything's fine. Your child is fine. It's safe. They're talking about a wolf. I'm like, yes, it's okay. It's okay. But along with that, and even talking about...
Can I just say, sorry.
Yeah.
And that is so important.
Yes.
They are talking about it at home.
Yes.
You don't have to say to your child, what did you learn at school today? When your children leave and they come home and they tell you about their day or an event of your day with passion and excitement, they are learning. That is what should be happening. Kids should have something to talk about when they leave school. And with this sort of a Talk for Writing experience, every day, they were leaving out the gate. They were saying, the wolf is on the loose. The wolf destroyed my shoes. For getting updates.
Is great. Now, actually, I want to, it's interesting. Anybody watching this is probably thinking, if you're an early childhood educator, you're probably loving this and thinking this is so much fun. This is great. But something like this, not necessarily the whole Talk for Writing aspect, but it could be still Talk for Writing. I would love to see this happening all the way through all of education.
And it does.
Right, talk about that.
I am a early childhood and a lower elementary school teacher.
Yes, okay.
But Pie Corbett has it if you wanted to be trained, a plug for that, that Talk for Writing does go all the way through and it gets more sophisticated. And it goes into novel writing. And I don't know if the hooks are as big, but it goes into kids cannot write in middle and high school because they don't have a structure still. So a lot of children, if you ask what the weak spaces are in their learning, math and writing. And math is what? They don't have the formula.
Yeah.
Writing is what? They don't have a structure and they don't have enough language. They don't have enough vocabulary. So Pie Corbett does go all the way through, and I'm not going to talk much about it because I kind of stopped. I've been at a school that has done Pie Corbett. I taught at British schools. I've taught at different sorts of schools. I taught at a few British schools. That's how I got introduced to it. But we would do, our first story would be whole school. And it would go from pre-K and it would go all the way up until the key stage 1 and 2, which would be the 6th grade, kind of like the 6th, 5th, or 6th grade. And we would do stories like the Gingerbread Man for everyone. And because you could imagine, that the story framing is still necessary in the 5th grade.
Yeah.
They're 5th graders that are not having the proper structure to write stories with. This summer I teach over the summer, and I teach 6th graders. I teach 6th grade STEM, and they do some writing. And some of the writing is concerning. I would say, we could use the Talk for Writing framework to give them a structure so they can share their ideas in a structure that is working for them. Because you've got to imitate writers, model writing, in order to then take it in and make it your own.
Correct.
But if you don't have anything to imitate, then it's really difficult to get the practice to then become this kind of independent sort of writer. So it does go up.
That's amazing.
And please do more research
Yes.
for teachers who are in upper elementary and beyond on Talk for Writing, because I think there might be something there that can support your learners and becoming better writers and being able to better talk about their reading and literature and get excited about literature. Because I'm a mother of a child who is in middle school, and what I want more than anything is that my child loves to read and like has a story to talk about. And I do fear that when they get older, reading is more like
It's
a
a task
necessity,
or a
is a
necessity, yeah.
task. And I think if your child goes through school, and there's lots of research that children who read for pleasure are more likely to be successful on testing, because they have the desire to do their own research. Like they have the desire to spend time going deeper on their own. They could better regulate their emotions because they don't want to step away from people and like go into their own little space and read alone, and they find that pleasing. So there's so many benefits to this idea of making sure that children love being in that quiet place alone with literature, and that they find it fun and exhilarating all the way through their learning experience.
So what I want to move on to, it's still in the same idea, but it's this idea of building relationships with students. Like obviously it's being done through this Talk for Writing process, and they're going through all these big emotions, like you said. But even before, when you were talking about like restructuring a story with other characters or other books, and then instead of it being a huff and puff, it's now a meow and all that. Even something like that, the relationship that a teacher has with their students to get them to critically think, to think more about something, and getting them to say, okay, but what would if your story has cats in it now, well, what would it do? Because some kids will automatically say, oh, meow, or this, whatever, but other kids are like, well, I don't know what they would do. Maybe, the words like roar or along with the meow. And what I've noticed is I've seen teachers try to get kids to do that next part, like that next vocabulary, but they don't have that kind of connection with their students to get them to think like, come on, let's think. Even the way that we use our face, the way that we use our body language, all the way through. It doesn't matter if we're talking to an actual 5-year-old or we're talking to like a 5-year-old that is inside an adult's body. It seems like there is this idea of building relationships with your entire community, and getting everybody that excitement, that feeling, like you said, living the story, or living learning.
That's right.
Can you talk about that a little bit, and the importance of that to you, all the way from, yes, the ages that we are working with, but even with the other adults that you work with or parents that you deal with, like why is it important to build relationships with those around you?
Yeah, I think
it's such an open question, but
yeah, it's an open one. You've done a training on this, and you started out with what is the lady's name, Sheila, who talks about no one can learn if they don't like you.
Oh, I forgot her name.
Yeah.
But bless her heart, because she's fabulous.
Yes, so it's something about a champion, right? Every child needs a champion is a speech, and I think a lot of schools in the States listen to that, and everyone should listen to it. But it's the idea that, right, if you cannot learn from people that you don't like. I mean, just as a blanket statement, I mean, you can't, as a child, you cannot do it. As an adult, you cannot do it. I mean, in work, if you have to be put into a collaborative experience with people that you genuinely don't trust, even if they are very intellectually gifted and they have a lot of information, the chemical makeup in your body will push away from receiving whatever it is that they have to say or do, and you just don't trust it. And I think particularly in our younger learners, and we talked about this a bit, where they are in their developmental phases closer to emotion, closer to touch, closer to that. They don't, their language is, 5 years, they just started speaking.
They just got here.
2 or 3 years ago, and speaking in full sentences like last year. So their main way of connecting has been through touch and through feeling and that world. So if you are not able to have that feeling of safety, right, then they just cannot really engage with you. And so, yeah, it's everything that we do. I think we spend, and anyone who looks at the first 6 weeks, I think there's a lot of people as teachers that looks at that book in terms of the routines of a classroom. But within the routines of a classroom, and in a lot of play-based environments where we're trying to get to understand the profile of a kid, those first 6 weeks is also trying to know, as the adult, know your children well, know their likes, not just know them academically. I think, academics is, something that will come, but to know them as people, because when you know them as people, then you can have more space to know them academically, because they may let you in. right? So we spend the first 6 weeks thinking about what are your likes, so that you can even incorporate that into your academics, right? If they're into Ultraman or they're into Pokemon, you can add bits and pieces of that into your lessons just to grab their attention into things. So I think relationships are important. I think they're important with parents. Parents who trust the teacher will encourage their children to do well in class, right? My child, for example, has a teacher this year who, and I know the teacher very well. So, if the teacher is telling me that something's not going well in class, I trust that teacher. And so my conversation with my son is very different than from a teacher who I'm not so sure about.
Yeah.
So my conversation with my son is, well, Mr. So-and-so is saying this. How can we do better at home to support you in that area? So my trust of that teacher makes me more responsive to making sure that my son is doing what he needs to do to be prepared academically for his class. So I think it just, relationships everywhere.
I want to add to that and saying how important it is that parent-teacher relationship, truly. Like we say it in a lot of places, we educators are trained or coached to have good relationships with parents, right? But then the moment, let's say, a difficult parent comes in or a challenging parent comes in, a lot of teachers tend to shut down. And it's one of those things that if you have the inner strength, I would say, to really let the parents know, like, I'm actually on your side. I'm on your team. Like, I have your child for 1 year. This is going to be an amazing year, but I actually need your support. I need your help in this. And some parents are not going to be readily available, and that's okay. You still do what you do. But there's those parents who are waiting almost to connect with you as well and to learn from you as well, so that they could also help their child. And I've had parents write to me about concerns about their child, and I'm looking at them like, calm down, like, and I can literally say the words, calm down, like, it's okay. But when I go back and I think about, well, why am I allowed to say certain things that I know other people would never say? And it really is kind of going back what you were saying earlier, being 22 and someone bowing to you. It's like walking into the identity that one sees you in, but then also accepting that identity for yourself and saying, I am an educator. I am someone who knows about this, and I'm learning every single day more and more about this craft of mine. But I'm also honoring this idea and this persona until it's no longer a persona where it's like I turn, a mask comes on and off. It is me. I'm gonna kind of close this out a bit, but I'm gonna say thank you now, Stacey, for just being you. Just being the amazing you. I think that it's really rare to meet people who you connect with, who have similar mindsets, similar goals, very different. We are very different, but it's just this idea of, when I'm around you, I think growth. When I'm around you, I think happiness. I enjoy being in the presence of you, and that's honestly very rare, especially for someone like me. I'm super picky, the people I'm around. Vibes, energy. I'm a true Pisces. Like, I don't like those people. Anyway.
By the way, I was talking about you last night. Okay. By the way, to my favorite, my ace person.
Your ace, yes.
My ace,
okay.
yeah. She called.